Sean here with BaseMint Comics, and it's Wednesday, September 24th, 2025. We got a later start to the day, so I'm actually already back from the ride. I have a later work meeting on the last Wednesday of every month that I facilitate, so I tend to work late that night. And we weren't able to get to the store earlier in the day like we normally would because it was thunderstorming, and we like to ride to the shop, so we kind of were hoping to ride it out. And we did, so we were able to do a somewhat wet late night, evening, sunset ride home in the dark ride after we picked up our books right before the shop closed. So let's get into what we picked up this week, and then we'll do a corner box classics at the end of the video. So here's our ride. All right, so we're back from the shop, and let's dive into what we picked up for the week of September 24th, 2025. So first up is a book that I initially, when the solicitations came out, and I was like making my pull list for the shop for that month, because I like fill out a previews catalog. This was like the first X book where I was like, I'm not gonna pick that up, I'm gonna trade weight it. And then when I went into the shop on the day of the first issue, I like flipped through it, and the art was really good, and I opened up right to like this double page spread of like Dark Phoenix era X-Men, which is my jam. And so I've been picking up Emma Frost, White Queen. This is issue 4. I hate the cheesecake covers, but first 3 issues have been good so far. However, I feel like I played myself because that like double page spread was like just an issue number 1, no classic like Byrne era X-Men to be found after this. It's just been an Emma story, and it's been fine, but I would have been happy like trade waiting and picking this up on the cheap later on. But I pre-ordered it, edited my pull list, and I am I believe that if I order it from my shop, I'm buying it. So hopefully it's a solid issue, but like I said, can't really, like Emma Frost covers they bum me out, man. I had there was like I can't even remember. There was an Emma Frost series from years ago, and I just got rid of it because like the covers were all her, like, I don't know, it was like Greg Land-esque. Anyways, so there's that book. It's like interior art's good. Not a super huge fan of the covers. Then Another book that I didn't initially plan on picking up, but really enjoyed the first couple issues, Death of Silver Surfer. It's been a pretty good series so far. I've been digging it. So looking forward to reading that. The next is Godzilla Destroys the Marvel Universe. And they got me with, look at that team of X-Men. Look at that Gambit. So I am not super familiar with Godzilla other than my dad watching like Saturday matinees with my older siblings when we were kids, and my brother-in-law is a huge Godzilla fan. So when they were doing like the Godzilla versus X-Men, Godzilla versus Thor, Godzilla versus Fantastic Four, I was picking those up, but I picked I think it was Lee Barrett was doing variant covers that looked like boxing posters, like it was like Thing versus Godzilla. And so I would like troll my brother-in-law by sending him those, and he would get irate that Godzilla would defeat them all. So now he's thrilled that I'm picking up a series called Godzilla Destroys the Marvel Universe, because he believes that nothing can defeat Godzilla. So there you have it. Up next, Spider-Man and Wolverine #5, written by Mark Guggenheim, and it's drawn by Carr Andrews. I'm not 100% sure, but it's been actually pretty fun. I want to say this one, I like Spider-Man a million trillion times more than I like Deadpool, so this one gets the edge over Wolverine Deadpool. Art's fun. It's straight out of the 90s, which is when I started reading comics. So, you know, it harkens back to my youth, so I don't mind that, even though I do have to laugh that, like, proportionately, some of this stuff is way off, and I have grown to appreciate 70s, 60s, and 80s art much more, but there are still artists from the 90s that I absolutely love, and I will fight to the death for. I don't care what anybody says. Then up next is Storm #12, which is one of my favorite series of the From the Ashes end of Krakoa. This and Phoenix have both been really good. I've been enjoying both quite a bit. So looking forward to the conclusion of the Thunder War. Then Vision and Scarlet Witch. I mean, these are worth it for like the fun Daughterman covers alone, but it's been a pretty fun story. I am a sucker for like Vision and Hawkeye were always like my favorite Avengers. Although, like, I will say this. So when I was a kid, got into the X-Men cartoon. Gambit was my favorite with the cartoon, like bar none. Started reading comics, Nightcrawler, the Nightcrawler specific like episode of the X-Men the animated series where he was like introduced and they were in the monastery. Huge impact on me as a kid. That shifted. So where like Gambit was then secondary, and I love Cyclops. And what slowly started to happen though when I read all of the X-Men stuff is like I found myself having like a soft, like Nightcrawler is my favorite, but I could make an argument for pretty much all of the X-Men characters. And so like right now I can be like, oh, I love Vision and I love Hawkeye as Avengers, but I am now like 210 solid issues from the beginning of Avengers, and I'm starting to feel kind of the same way that I do with the X-Men, where it's like I'm slowly sort of like falling in love with each and every character for different reasons, and finding reasons to connect with characters. And, you know, like if I'm having a time period where I'm feeling, you know, self-doubt or whatever, it's like Hank Pym is, you know, an interesting character study in that. I love Captain America. Chris Evans' performance in the films had a ton with like making me appreciate Cap even more than I already did. You know, reading the David Michelini and the J.M. DeMatteis and the Mike Zeck stuff is also like adding to that. So while I say that I love Vision and Hawkeye, just know that like slowly but surely pretty much all of the Avengers are becoming, you know, same thing. It's like I like each, you know, if you like, well, who's your favorite member of the Fantastic Four? It's like, well, it's the Thing, right? But like I also find myself like you know, I appreciate all of them. It's good, you know? So, speaking of Avenger characters that I love, we're popping up with the Mortal Thor #2. Al Ewan, I really enjoyed Immortal Thor, and I liked the first issue of this, and I'm happy to see where it's going. So then, another book that I did not pre-order, but I nabbed issue #1 when it came out and thoroughly enjoyed it, and I did so because going back and reading all of the Amazing Spider-Man stuff from the beginning and currently enjoying Jed MacKay's run on Avengers, and there was a particular arc where there was like a heist thing that they did with Kang, and they brought in Felicia Hardy, the Black Cat, and this is another, like, you know, cover I'm gonna have to hide from Hank until he's of a certain age. Like, I really enjoyed #1, and I really like have a newfound appreciation for the character from reading, you know, all of her appearances chronologically and kind of getting a better handle on the character than like my only real like introduction to her being like the 90s animated series or whatever, which obviously is, you know, is a great animated television show, don't get me wrong, but probably not the best, you know, thing about Felicia. And she's great in Spidey and His Amazing Friends. One of my favorite characters on that show when I watch it with Henry. So, looking forward to issue #2 of this. And this is retroactively making me want to see if I should have picked up Jed MacKay's Black Cat series, because I've heard really good things, liked how he wrote her in Avengers currently. And so maybe I'll go back and try to find that. So let's see. Up next, you will find out through this that I am a sucker for parallel universes. And so I picked up Battle World #1, which I was very excited about. And I thought this cover was cool, but I thought this cover was cooler. Like, look at that thing right there. And I think this is like Nick Bradshaw. It looks like Nick Bradshaw. I can't see a super visible signature on this, and I'm not going to spend a ton of time looking for it. But look at how great that looks. Look at that. It's a pretty great cover. So I didn't mind double dipping on that one to have the regular cover and then that sweet variant cover. So I like Christos Gage's art, and I really don't know like much about this story, but hey, it's got a Days of Future Past Storm on the cover. It's got Odin. Let's see, the Star Brand, 70s Luke Cage, Spider-Man, can't go wrong with Spider-Man. Carol Danvers is Miss Marvel. So I'm looking forward to checking that out. Speaking of Jed MacKay, X-Men #22 is out. And this one still isn't drawn by Stegman. I assume he's probably saving it for what this issue, I assume, leads into, which is next month's Age of Revelation. So I'm looking forward to this. I'm excited about this event. I mean, I don't like, you know, been kind of enjoying where Uncanny is. This one's been a little underwhelming for me, more than I kind of hoped for when it was initially announced. But I'm kind of hoping that maybe some of like the foot off the gas leading up to this event is because the event is gonna be awesome. So I'm holding out hope, because that's the type of dude I am. So now we get to my last book that I picked up, but the one I am most excited for, which is Tony Fleek's Thing #5. This miniseries has been an absolute blast. Super fun, great art. Like, you know, sometimes they get caught up in events and it's big threats, and sometimes it's nice to just have Ben Grimm punch the holy hell out of Hammerhead in the middle of Yancey Street, which is exactly what you get, is like Ben Grimm punching people. Last issue was punching Juggernaut. It was awesome. Sometimes I just want to watch my blue-eyed idol of millions punch stuff, and this has brought it for 4 issues, and I expect that it is going to end with more Benjamin J. Grimm punch-ups, which is pretty awesome. So I'm hoping that other people are picking this up. I would highly recommend it. It was really good, super fun, and perhaps if more people pick it up, we can get more stuff like this, where it's just, you know, normal, run-of-the-mill, good guy fights a bad guy comic books, which is what we're all here for. Speaking of fun punch-ups, I picked up 1 back issues because I have been on an absolute Ulik the Troll tear for some reason. I don't know. Maybe it's just Thor and Ulik. I don't know. I still don't know how to pronounce it. Somebody let me know. These two punching the hell out of each other. It's awesome. You got John Buscema pencils. Look at that. That was worth it right there. Look at him lay Thor out. So I am looking forward to reading this after I cruise through some new books. So that's what we peddled to pick up at the shop the week of September 24th, 2025. And now I'm going to kick it over to the Corner Box Classics portion of this. And if you could, please subscribe. That would be awesome. Like this video if you enjoyed it. And comment. Let me know what you picked up. If you think my picks were good or awful, or if you have different opinions on them. If you think I'm an idiot for being bummed out by the Emma Frost cheesecake covers, you can let me know that. And we can chat about it. So now over to the Corner Box Classics portion. This button. All right, now we're in the Corner Box Classics. So if I had the ability, and had not only been 2 months old at this point, to pedal up to a comic shop or a 7-Eleven that had a spinner rack, on December 29th, 1981, I would have picked up Spider-Man number 43, Last Stand, written by Chris Claremont, art by Steve Lailiola, I think. Lailiola? I'm not 100%. I met him once. Should have asked him how to pronounce his name. I met Fabian Nicizier once and asked him how to pronounce his name. I still think I get it wrong. And letters by Tom Orzechowski. So Spider-Woman 43 opens up with Jessica Drew breaking into the San Francisco jail to question one of the thugs that had attacked her in the previous issue. She sends Lieutenant Sabrina Morell to her apartment to check in on Lindsay McCabe and Pamela Kramer, who's hiding out because Viper and Silver Samurai are after her. But what they don't realize is that Viper is watching from a distance. So Jessica goes back to break in, lands in a cell, and winds up getting gassed, so she's out of the count. They're all getting together, hanging out. And then Viper eventually breaks in. And so Lindsay's taken off, hiding Pamela, and then she goes to distract Viper and winds up like they both fall off of the roof of the house. And Lindsay is seriously hurt in this. So then Silver Samurai, for some reason, dresses Jessica up like Viper, which is going to prove to be a dumb move in the future. Jessica grabs his sword. He's pissed off about that, even though it only turns to an energy sword when it's in his hands. The two of them fight. Some guards, she gets the upper hand when some guards come in, and the Silver Samurai is like, I told you I didn't want to be distracted. And because of Jessica's resemblance to Viper, the goons think that that is Viper, so they wind up going after Silver Samurai. So their battle continues there. Viper eventually shows up and is like, you idiots, that's Jessica Drew. So she takes the gloves off and hits Viper with a Venom Blast. And then Jessica frees Pamela's father, and she goes to check on them, realizes that the apartment's all torn up, and goes and discovers that Lindsay is very badly hurt in the fall, and she confesses to her that she's Spider-Woman, and she's bummed because the only reason that she wound up like even moving into the apartment was because she didn't want to be lonely, And so she feels sort of bad about that. And Lindsay is quick to be like, come on. Like, I totally knew you were Spider-Woman. I knew the risks when I signed up to be your roommate. Glad to be your friend. And so Jessica is relieved, but silently is like, I'm going to mess Silver Samurai and Viper up. So that's where issue 43 of Spider-Woman ends. Up next is Dazzler number 14, Without Getting Killed or Caught, released on December 29th, 1981, written by Danny Fingeroth, pencils by Frank Springer, inks by Vince Coletta, letters by Joseph Rosen and Janice Chang, and colors by Don Warfield. So Dazzler 14 opens up with this guy in probably some sleazy motel. He's got a newspaper article about Dazzler, a couple pictures of her friends / bandmates, and he is obviously polishing up a sniper rifle. And then we cut to Allison with her manager, and they're heading off to a gig. They're opening up for this guy, Bruce Harris, and you get a shot of Allison's drummer, Beefer, which is a hilarious name, getting ready for the gig. The Bruce Harris dude is kind of a creep. And then in the crowd, you have the sniper guy there who goes, Allison notices that he's taking a shot. And in the audience is a character named the Blue Shield, who you were introduced to in issue number 5 of Dazzler. And he was a guy whose father was killed by the mob. And so he went undercover in the mob, and he's kind of a hero named the Blue Shield. And so Dazzler knocks the sniper off of taking the shot, but it winds up coming close to the Blue Shield. So he's like, oh, I'm going to go investigate. And they're all taken off for this. So some bad guys there that were fully expecting this like assassination attempt on Dazzler to go down, have this weird, like one of the guys is just like so bizarre. This is typical of like the Dazzler book at the time, but he like happened to get into a car accident earlier, and it turned out that his car accident was with Jennifer Walters. And so they have now hypnotized her, and the goons think that there's like another set of goons who think that Lance, Allison's like bodyguard guy, is actually the Blue Shield. So they kidnap him, and then it's a fight between Dazzler and She-Hulk. And I think technically, with the way that I've read everything, because I don't read any She-Hulk yet, I jump on in the Burn Run, but like Savage She-Hulk is an absolute, like, I don't have any of those issues, never read them. So I don't have like this technically in my continuity of the Marvel Universe. Is the first time I ever run into She-Hulk. So she Dazzle blasts her, and eventually, like, Jen is like, oh, hey, you know, I'm good, so let's go after these creeps. And that's where it kind of ends, is like they gang up and stop those characters. So, you know, not the greatest issue of Dazzler, certainly, but still fun. Then I would have picked up the, let's see, special double-sized Daredevil number 181, Last Hand, written and penciled by Frank Miller, with inks and colors by Klaus Janson, and letters by Joseph Rosen. Daredevil 181 opens up with this Frank Miller shot of Daredevil getting shot in the head, which turns out is just happening in the mind of Bullseye while he's in prison, and he's training to take down Daredevil, but it turns out that he's having these really horrible headaches, and so they've got to come in and give him some medicine. So they make him put his hands in shackles so he's not dangerous, and one of the guards, as he's having this like excruciating headache, is kind of messing with him by not giving him his pills right away. And so while he's having this headache, he is envisioning Daredevil working out, and he is like, again, he's like, you know, they're doing an interview where he's like agreed to do an interview, and during the interview he needs to get he fakes a headache, gets one of the pills, and winds up taking out the cop. The cop shoots, but it hits the shackles, and then Bullseye is loose, and he winds up off in that cop who was not giving him his pills on time. So Bullseye escapes. This big helicopter escape. Matt catches wind of Daredevil being out there, or Bullseye being out there. And while this is all going on, this whole page is fantastic. Just like beautifully drawn of Daredevil, or why do I keep on calling him Daredevil? Of Bullseye realizing, like, hey, I had this crazy thought. What if Murdoch is, like, what if Daredevil was blind? Wouldn't that be crazy? So Matt's in court with Foggy. Bullseye is there in kind of like the courtroom audience, I guess, while they're going over this case. Foggy leaves. Bullseye's trailing him. Foggy gets into a cab, takes off. Bullseye winds up killing the cabbie that he flags down, and he starts following. Turns out that the driver for Foggy's cab is actually Elektra, and she's going to kill him. But then Foggy recognizes her from their college days, and so she lets him go. And so then Bullseye comes after Elektra, and a fantastic Frank Miller fight ensues for multiple pages. It's fantastic. And we all know the very famous shot of how this ends. Bullseye stabs Elektra with her own sai. She crawls herself to Matt's apartment and basically dies in his arms. And Bullseye is there, obviously, like in this great panel. In this great panel, kind of illuminated by him lighting a cigarette. You can see that she has passed. So this is where Bullseye's like in the morgue, and he has taken place of one of the coroners, and he's talking to Matt to figure out if he's Daredevil. And he's just like, oh, let me see. And he throws a knife at him, and Matt blocks it. So he's like, oh, it's on. Matt Murdock is Daredevil. So Bullseye goes to Kingpin with this information, and he's like, there's no way. Like, he doesn't believe him. And so Bullseye's now like, well, I'm going to kill him, and I'm going to bring him to you. So Bullseye sneaks up on him, sees him there, like, working. He's, dictating some of his court notes out loud. And so then Bullseye, like, gets grabbed by Daredevil. So he's like, son of a, he's not Matt Murdock. And so then they battle. It's fantastic. Like, again, Frank Miller and Klaus Jensen are just killing it. Obviously, there's not much I can say that hasn't been said before about how fantastic this stuff is. Just really great. Like, just fantastic. And so then Matt, I don't necessarily know if maybe Matt lets him go. And so then we see Matt visiting Daredevil, or at least it's Bullseye thinking about that as he lays in the hospital, pretty beat up from falling multiple stories. That was a great ad for that Marvel Fanfare issue. So that is Daredevil 181. And you would have thought that last issue, Daredevil 181, would have been my pick of the week, because Frank Miller and Klaus Janson are killing it. I mean, Joseph Rosen is doing a really good job on the letters too. But sleeper hit of the week for December 29th, 1981, that absolutely rocked my socks, was Marvel 2-in-1 number 86. The Time Runs Like Sand. Written by Tom DeFalco, penciled by Ron Wilson, inks by Chick Stone, letters by Jim Novak, and colors by George Roussos. And this is a fantastic issue. Marvel 2-in-1, The Thing and Sandman, number 86. Fantastic. Like, look at all the details in this cover. It's fantastical. The beers on the wall, like Beck's sign, the bartender back there, the photos above the window. Like, it's just a fantastic, even though the Ron and Chick bottle there, we can ignore the Impossible Man. So opens up things helping Reed out in his lab, and just moving machinery around, typical Reed stuff, where he's got gizmos and gadgets galore in the Fantastic Four building, and is making Ben move him around, and he's kind of discussing, like, they're talking about Sandman, and Reed's telling him, oh yeah, he ran into the Hydro Man and it caused a whole thing. This was happening in Amazing Spider-Man issues 217 and 218. And so you're probably not going to see Flint Marko around anytime soon. And so then we cut to the lab where they were at, and it winds up that the two of them eventually do separate. And Hydro Man takes off, And Sandman is basically, his whole world is thrown upside down over this. He's really in kind of a mess. So he steals some clothes and discusses, in his inner thoughts about how he can just sort of, doesn't matter the size of the jacket because he can just shift the sand in his body. Robs this guy at $10 because he just wants to go get a drink. So he winds up at this bar. And so the bartender recognizes him, calls the cops, and the cops are like, not having it. They're like, whatever, this is a prank call. So he hangs up. He calls the Fantastic Four. He tries to give the Avengers a call, winds up calling the Fantastic Four. Thing answers the phone, and he's like, instead of lugging Reed's heavy machinery around, I could definitely go for a beer. So he heads down to check this out, and walks into the bar, sees Sandman sitting there. And he's ready. Like, it's hilarious because in this portion of it, like, he's like, I don't want Sandman to mess this place up. And Sandman's just sitting at the bar, like, just having a drink. And then it's Ben who, like, rips a table out of the floor and is like, Miller time's over. I'm taking you in. And Flint's quick to be like, turn it off, man. Like, I'll go quietly. And this throws kind of Ben for a loop where he's just like, I thought we were going to hash this out. What gives? And so Flint kind of basically explains, like, dude, I've been through it lately. I'm tapped out physically, emotionally, mentally. I couldn't give you a decent brawl even if I wanted to, which I don't. He's like, I just want to sit here and have this beer. And so Ben's like, well, what the hell happened to you? And so it goes through the whole thing of, like, Sandman's dad wasn't that great. He was trying to help out his mom, wasn't a brain in school. So he was picking on kids lesser than him to get him to do his homework because he needed to, like, get out of here and get his mom out of there. And his ticket out was football. And so Ben in this panel is like thinking, like, man, like, legitimately our stories are pretty in line right now. Like, one wrong move and I could have been Sandman. Like, if I hadn't met Reed, if I had, football was my ticket out. I got a scholarship. I met Reed, and Reed kind of helped me through college. Wound up on the rocket with him, get my powers. And so this is where their stories kind of diverge, is because then Thing is like, or Sandman's like, I took, some bribes, and when that happened, my coach found out I got kicked off the team, so there was no scholarship. So he got into, like, roughing up neighborhood business owners for protection costs, and, his mom doesn't want any of the money because she's heard the neighbors kind of going on and on about how, Flint's a bad guy and she doesn't want him to be a bad guy. And so it just devolves from there where, like, he's now robbing banks and winds up going to Rikers. And when he escapes from Rikers is when the whole Sandman thing happens. And he's just bad break after bad break. And it's just this fantastic issue of the two of them kind of, like, bonding and realizing, like, oh man, like, Ben kind of had the right people at his side and Flint really didn't. And this issue took me by surprise. Probably my favorite Marvel 2-in-1 so far. And so he's basically like, Flint's like, before you arrest me, like, let me call my ma, let me finish, I don't suppose you have time for another beer. And Ben's like, nah, I gotta get going, but why don't you have a couple rounds on me? And he drops a couple bucks on the bar, and Flint's like, I don't understand. Aren't you gonna arrest me? And Ben's like, why should I? I ain't no cop. And he's like, according to the authorities, Sandman's dead. So let him stay dead. Like, you got some bad breaks in your life, but so did a lot of other people, and they turned out all right. You got a chance to start all over again with clean slate. Don't make the same mistakes again. Don't fumble this ball. Think about it. I'll be rooting for you. And then it's just a quiet, like, last panel of Flint sitting at the bar, drinking that beer, thinking about what he's going to do next. And just an all-out fantastic issue. Then there's an Impossible Man backup story, which is, like, cute, funny, but really, like, it does end in a really funny moment where, like, Ben convinces the Impossible Man to go to the Kree galaxy so that he's their problem, which is good. But just the A story of this, the Thing in the Sandman one, is fantastic. This is definitely, for the week of December 29th, 1981, absolutely hands down my pick of the week, and by far and I've really enjoyed Marvel 2-in-1, but this is by far the best issue of that series. If you don't read any Marvel 2-in-1, you should definitely go find this issue. It's fantastic. So there you have it. That is the books that we picked up this week. Couple corner box classics, which rounds out 1981. So up next is the first week of January 1982. So thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. There will probably be a corner box classics issue for some of the January stuff before next Wednesday. And this weekend, Hank and I are hitting up Fantasticon. We're going to meet Jim Salicrup and Michael Golden and Renee Wittersatter, and hopefully pick up some cheap back issues. So we'll probably have a little something about that. So thanks for watching, and thanks for taking this ride with us.